Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2020-21 season. My name is Dan and today I've got for you a buy, sell, keep, avoid transfer video for you for Game Week 22. On a Sunday, I know, really weird time to be making these kind of videos, but the way the Premier League schedule is right now, it's just all over the place. It's super crazy. Videos non-stop, game weeks non-stop, football non-stop, FPL non-stop, which is what we really care about. So yes, if you do enjoy this video today, do remember to give a big like on the video. Super, really helpful, really helps the channel. So thank you guys for continuing to do that. And of course, if you're new around here, please do consider subscribing as well. But before we get onto the buy, sell, keep, avoid picks for the game, just a quick word from our sponsor today. Now, the buy, sell, keep, avoid videos are once again sponsored by OneFootball. Now, for those of you who don't know what OneFootball is, it's a great app and a website for all things football. Now, I personally use that OneFootball mobile app. I want to check the scores. A couple of games on at the same time, for example. I can watch one game and I can check the scores on the other game on my phone or on my computer, whatever. I can do it very easily. Check out the stats, who's doing well, who's not doing so well. And hopefully it's Arsenal doing well when I'm checking. But usually I'm watching that game anyway. But really, really useful. And it's got all kind of transfer gossip as well. And of course, it's kind of the last day of the transfer deadline as well. So maybe a few deals go through at the last second. You never know. Find out on OneFootball. So very quickly, the rules of this video is buys are players you probably don't have but you should consider bringing in. Sells are players that you probably have but should consider removing. Keeps are players that you probably have and should keep. And avoids are players that you probably don't have and should also avoid. I think we just get straight stuck in with some buy, sell, keeps and avoids today because, you know, I've not really got too much preamble. I've not got too much preamble for this one. So let's just get stuck in and we'll start off with a buy. And our first buy is Wilfried Zaha. The reason why I'm talking about Wilfried Zaha, I know a few of you guys might be talking about Zaha yourself. I know he's a bit of a trolly player. You know, we do kind of know this about him. But some things you can't ignore. And something that I can't ignore is this next sort of run of seven fixtures that our team, Crystal Palace here, have. Looking really, really good, these next 7 fixtures. Okay, let me tell you these next fixtures. Newcastle, Leeds, Burnley, Brighton, Fulham. They've got Spurs, which I know Spurs isn't great, but then they've got West Brom, and that takes you all the way to game week 28. So you've got a nice 7-game stretch here where, okay, these fixtures are looking pretty nice as well. These are kind of the best fixtures any team in the Premier League has right now. You know, it's Crystal Palace have the best fixtures, and then kind of, I don't know, Manchester United have some good fixtures as well. But when I look at these fixtures, nothing tops this. Over a 7-game period, nothing tops this. You can't really get much better than this. It really is that good. So maybe Palace is a team that we want to look at. And if we're looking at Crystal Palace and we want to pick an attacking player, for me, there's only one player worth considering. I know you guys are probably thinking, oh, well, maybe I should take a little punt on Eberechi Eze. I don't think you should. I really don't think you should. It kind of seems like statistically, and, you know, if we go back on the history of the player and how good the player is, there is only one guy. His stats look so much better than anyone else in the Palace side. It's Zaha. No one else comes close. He really kind of is the only option to go for there. I really do believe that. So maybe if you want to go for Eze, I understand why you would want to do something a little bit different. Fair enough, but I'm going to have to recommend Zaha for this one. I really am. That's my personal recommendation. He's just got the best stats by far. Anyway, stats over the past 5 games. 12 shots, 7 in the box, 2 big chances, 1.39 expected goals. He's got 2 goals in that. And he's had 3 key passes that he's made as well. 0.45 expected assists, but no assists, unfortunately. And that is, like I say, the best in that Palace team. Probably, you know, it's the second best. Eze, probably about half as good as that. So I know these stats don't look amazing, but at Crystal Palace, this is kind of the best you can get. And remember, Zaha's not incredibly, amazingly expensive or anything like that. So we don't expect the huge stats that some players boast. We're not expecting like 15, 16, 17 shots. But 12 shots over 5 games is still pretty good. It's still pretty good, to be fair. One thing I would say about Zaha, if you are considering bringing him in, is be patient. I know a lot of you guys are going to bring Zaha in. He will blank. He definitely will blank because that's how he works. He'll maybe blank a couple of these games and you're going to want to say, I give up on Zaha. I'm taking him out of my team. You've got to be patient with a player like Zaha because what he'll do is he'll blank, and then he'll get a 15-pointer haul out of nowhere. And you've already sold him. You've lost him, unfortunately, because you weren't patient with him. So if you're getting Zaha for this run of 7 games, keep him for the full 7 games. Keep him for every one of these fixtures. Don't give up on him. You know, we look back at the previous hauls in this season. Zaha got sort of a couple of blanks in a row, then 15 points against Manchester United out of nowhere. A couple of other low scores / blanks, and then another 13 points versus Fulham. And then he got, more recently, was it 18 points against West Brom as well. Just an insane score. And that was straight after coming back from his COVID, wasn't it? He sort of 0 points, 18 points against West Brom. 2 of those teams, incidentally, Fulham and West Brom, are in this run of 7 games. So, you know, if he does like these easier fixtures, then that could be quite nice for these hauls. But like I say, he does get a lot of blank / low scores, and then suddenly he'll get something big. So don't give up on him. Be patient if you are getting him in. But I think I've spoken enough about the next tattoo legend himself. Let's move on to another buy. And I've got for you Edinson Cavani. Edinson Cavani, potential Kane replacement. I know a lot of you guys are still on the hunt for someone to replace Kane with. Maybe Cavani could be the one for you. It's a little bit differential. He's only 4.2% owned. He's cheap at 7.9 million, or at least I would say that is cheap for a Manchester United striker. You know, when we're talking about Manchester United strikers, if you go back through the years, we're talking really expensive players, aren't we? When we think about sort of even like Martial. Sort of, it was expensive at the beginning of this year, wasn't he? We go back, we look at players like Robin van Persie, Wayne Rooney, super expensive players. And now we've got Edinson Cavani, Manchester United striker, 7.9 million. And Manchester United are having a good season, I would say. I would have to say they're having a pretty good season. So there's some real appeal here. Manchester United as well, like I said a second ago, they kind of have some really nice fixtures as well. They've got Southampton next, then Everton, and then they've got this nice run of 2 of West Brom and then Newcastle. So, you know, with Southampton's poor form as well, they're conceding kind of a lot of goals, conceding a lot more chances than they have done previously in the season. Could be a good chance, actually, to get on an extra Manchester United attacker, because I know a lot of you guys are going to have Bruno already. So it's kind of a case of, okay, I've got Bruno, that's standard, that's set in my team, that's set and forget. How else am I going to add to my Manchester United collection? And I'd say Edinson Cavani is probably the one to go for outside of Bruno. Sort of Cavani's got the 3rd highest expected points per 90 minutes after Bruno and Shaw in that Manchester United team. When he plays, he's fantastic. 2nd best Manchester United attacker, you'd probably say so, wouldn't you? You know, I'd probably say he's ahead of Martial and Rashford in terms of his output and what he can produce. I can go through the stats if you like here. So last 5 appearances, this does include 2 substitute appearances as well. So he's had 8 shots, all of them in the box, 4 big chances, which is really quite nice, isn't it? That's the 3rd, that's the highest of any player in that Manchester United team. So, and he's quite clinical as well, so it's quite nice when Cavani gets big chances because he can often finish them, can't he? 1.72 expected goals, that's 3 times better than Rashford over this period, despite the fact that he's played far less minutes than Rashford. 1 goal, kind of underperforming, we know that. 1.72 expected, only 1 goal. He'll catch up with that expected goals. Don't worry about that. 3 key passes, 1 big chance created, 0.7 expected assists. That's kind of it's kind of not bad stats. You kind of got to factor in his minutes as well. But out of all of the players in Manchester United over this period, he has the 2nd highest expected goal involvement in the squad. So even though he's played less minutes, it's kind of irrelevant. He's got the 2nd best expected goal involvement in the squad with 34%. So he's expected to be involved in over a third of Manchester United goals. That's pretty good. In fact, that's really good. That's exactly kind of the thing we kind of want to see when we're picking out players, isn't it? You know, the fact is that he's good for his minutes. That's always the worry, isn't it? The worry is, will he play? Him playing 90 minutes versus Arsenal, I think he played 90, well, whatever. Him starting against Arsenal, that's kind of a very good indicator that he is first choice now. Martial has kind of been a little bit wasteful with his shooting. You know, that's why he's kind of been displaced and been put on the wing. Greenwood, you would probably say, is a little bit off form, but, you know, he's not really an FPL pick that we should be looking at right now. Rashford, he's kind of been a bit off form as well. He's been a little bit disappointing recently. So it kind of looks like Cavani is going to be the main forward now. He's proven himself now. He's ready to go. He's looking pretty good, generally speaking. He's not lost his quality or anything like that. I don't know. I think that's a pretty good option to go for. So Cavani could be a really interesting differential. So go for that if you fancy it. So for ourselves, guys, I'm going to do some old favourites because honestly, it was kind of hard to pick out some sells this game week. I'm not going to lie. So I'm gonna rehash some of the ones I've spoken about earlier, because I've basically noticed that a lot of you guys still have these players, and I really think that you should remove them. Hopefully I can convince you today. So let's do some sells and start off with Pedro and Neto. Arsenal and Leicester are the next two fixtures for Wolves. Kind of a good time to sell, maybe 4 consecutive 2-point scores all in a row. That's really not really the kind of thing we're looking for. I know Neto is kind of a cheap player. You have to manage your expectations a little bit. But, you know, he's had 3 returns in 11 game weeks. 2 of them were assists, so not even the high points of goals. It's just kind of not what we like. I know he's cheap, but the fact that there's all these players emerging who are kind of at a similar price and performing much better, it kind of makes you think, oh, I can't really justify keeping Neto in my team. And that's kind of what I'd recommend. You do get rid of Neto in favour of one of the other good cheap options, which I'll talk about in a second. But I do want to say the stats for Neto are not terrible, but they're not good enough to keep Neto over some of the other options who are a similar price, which, like I said, I'll talk about in a second. So last 5 for Neto: 8 shots, 4 in the box, 2 on target, 1 big chance, 0.7 expected goals, 13 key passes, 1 big chance created, and 0.9 expected assists. So yes, actually, he's creating a lot of chances, but they are mostly low quality chances, and there's no real clinical striker in this Wolves team for him to feed these chances to. And 1 assist he's got. But like I said, potential replacements: Gundogan, Rafinha. You could go for someone like Saka, who I think will be back next game week. I think he was only rested for as a precaution for this game week. You know, you can go for Soucek. He's a very hyped up player right now. You can go for Soucek as well. All of these players are similar price, if not cheaper, and the output is better. So although Neto, I always get those two muddled up for some reason. Although Neto's output isn't awful for his price, there are other players in the same price bracket that are performing amazingly. So it's a very easy transfer to be made there. So yeah, that's basically what I'd recommend. And let's go on to another old favourite, someone we have talked about before as a sell, but they are still a sell, and you guys need to sell these players. So let's move on to that. And that player is Kurt Zouma. Still kicking around in a lot of people's teams, and he's still in sort of 14% of FPL teams, and I imagine a lot of these teams are active. I've seen like people post, like send me screenshots on Twitter of their team, and they've still got Zouma kicking around. So I'm assuming you're watching this video and you still have Zouma. Kind of got to get rid of him now. He's been out of the first 11 for 4 games in a row. He's only played 1 game in Chelsea's past 6. He's not featured in the new manager's plans so far. We know this could potentially change, but the fact that Chelsea are lining up with 3 centre-backs and Zouma is not one of those 3 centre-backs, that's kind of a bad sign indeed. He's still, you know, 5.6 million, that's expensive for a defender. You know, this is kind of the year of the cheap defenders in many ways, so 5.6 million is considered an expensive defender. And, you know, this is a really interesting one, and you might have not picked this up on this already, but you might have. You can get Rudiger for 4.5 million. What a bargain. You know, why would you have 5.6 million invested in a Zouma when you can get Rudiger for 4.5 million? That's such a bargain, guys. That's such a bargain, and it's just the obvious one to go for out of the two. So, Spurs next. I know you're probably thinking, oh, what? Maybe I just switch Zouma to a non-Chelsea defender because Spurs is the next game. Just kind of try and remember that the big games this season do keep ending up 0-0. So don't worry about this fixture too much. Although I kind of agree this is not one you would be targeting or anything like that. But don't worry too much. I still think you can go for a Chelsea defender replacement. Sheffield United and Newcastle were the games after that. So you'd kind of think you'd want a Chelsea defender after that. So if you do trust Tuchel and his defence and think his 2-2 clean sheet run is going to continue, go for another Chelsea defender, save a load of money, go for Rudiger. Easy peasy, easy as pie, there we go. Time for some keeps, and we're going to keep Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Absolutely, of course we are. I've seen loads and loads of people are selling DCL. A lot of us, including me, actually bought him in last game week. Newcastle winning 2-0 and shutting out DCL. That was kind of a bit of a surprise. We shouldn't panic over this, I don't think. Ultimately, what we did was we bought in DCL, not just for that one fixture against Newcastle, but we bought him in for multiple fixtures ahead. He's got Leeds next, then Manchester United, and then Fulham. Now, the Leeds and Fulham game these are the ones we are really targeting. In fact, I said last game week, these are actually the two main fixtures that we're targeting because they are teams that concede a lot of chances from crosses. And we know DCL, he scores most of his goals from crosses. So it's kind of a perfect match in many ways. We really like the look of this. Sort of DCL having more chances to score from these crosses, from all of these players that are back in the Everton team as well. Played a couple of games together now. It could all really line up nicely and be a really good time for DCL. I like the look of it a lot. But anyway, we'll do his stats. I'm going to tell you his stats. They're not great. They don't make a fantastic argument. They make an okay argument, but not a fantastic argument. But it's more a case of the fixtures and the matchup, the type of player that DCL is and the type of defence that he's playing against. Looks like a really nice match. But anyway, last 5 games for DCL, 8 shots, 7 in the box, 2 big chances, 1.16 expected goals. Obviously, he's not had any goals there. 2 key passes with a 0.3 expected assists. He's only had 1 assist there as well. So I know no goals. His expected goals is not amazing. You know, it's kind of, it's not horrific, but it's not amazing. I can see that. But I just like the look of these matchups. So try and be patient, guys. Hold strong. Keep DCL. João Cancelo next. And oh my word, you guys know on this channel how much we hype up Cancelo. We love him. We really, really do love him over here. And people are selling him. People are panic selling him. And I cannot stress enough, do not panic sell Cancelo. You can't. He missed 1 game. He will be back. He really will be back. I promise you that. Remember the week before, he scored 17 points. The week before that, kind of 7 points. You know, as an example, right? You take those 3 game weeks, 17 points last game week, 7 points in the one before that, and okay, 0 points this game week. That would be 8 points per game. So basically, over the last 3 games, even though he missed 1 game, he is still averaging 8 points per game. That's really, really good. If it was different and, you know, he got you 8 points in each of those game weeks, so it was spread evenly, those points, over the past 3 game weeks, instead of going, you know, 7, 17, then 0, it went 8, 8, 8. You would never consider selling Cancelo, would you? You really wouldn't, because the point is that even if he misses 1 in 5 games, and he does miss 1 in 5 games, he makes up for it in the games that he does play, and in the games he doesn't play, you have someone on your bench who just comes on anyway and picks up points anyway. So there really is no benefit to selling Cancelo and panicking and worrying about him missing the occasional game. I really don't think there's anything to worry about. But please don't let 1 blank distract you from the fact that overall he is getting a lot of points. I still believe he's the first choice fullback at Man City, and I still believe he's the best Man City defender to have when he's on the pitch by a long way. And honestly, I kind of feel like Man City kind of missed him a little bit in that game against Sheffield United as well. Anyway, stats on the past 5 games that Cancelo's played. It includes 1 sub appearance as well. 9 shots, 5 in the box, 0.69 expected goals, 8 key passes, 2 big chances created, 1.21 expected assists. Now that's very good for a defender. So overall, I don't think I'm going to have to convince too many of you, but just in case I do, hold on to him. Hold on to him, guys. For real. You really have to. But yeah, there we go. That's the keeps. Let's do some avoids. Always the fun part, always the controversial one. Let me see what you think about these ones for you. My first avoid is Roberto Firmino. Why he's one of the most transferred in players of the game week, I just don't understand. He literally, I was looking through the list of most transferred players in. He is one of the most, I think it's like the 4th most transferred in player this game week. And I was like, what? Have people gone crazy? There've been some news that I've not heard about. You know, I'm recording pre-Liverpool West Ham game, but I've already seen the lineup, and I know he's not even starting against West Ham. So I don't know if that's got anything to do with it. People expect him to play the game after that. He did get 1 goal against Spurs the week before, but he didn't even get a particularly large amount of points. I think he got 7 points. Is that enough to justify getting him in? You know, remember before that goal in game week 20, he hadn't scored in 5 consecutive game weeks. That's a lot for a forward, right? We know Firmino is not a great finisher, and it's pretty well accepted that he's having a pretty poor season. When you look at his previous seasons, he's been better in the past, hasn't he? In addition to that, this is the most expensive he's ever been. This year is the most expensive he's ever been in FPL. 9.4 million for the third best attacking player who is out of form in a arguably out of form Liverpool team. Maybe they're turning it around a little bit, but still, so much money. I just don't get this one. I think this is nonsense. His underlying stats, Firmino, to be fair, they do look really good, but that doesn't matter when you can't finish. If you can't finish, you can have 100 shots and you still won't get a really nice returns, particularly for that money. So, in his last 5 games, excluding the West Ham game, of course, which I know he's not starting, but maybe he comes on and does something, who knows. 17 shots, 15 in the box, but just 5 of those shots are on target. 3 big chances, 2.01 expected goals, but only 1 goal. 7 key passes, 1 big chance created, 1.16 expected assists, but 0 assists. Often we'll say, okay, these good stats, probably a sign of good things to come. But it really does depend on the player, and if we already kind of accept that the player is not a fantastic finisher, then, you know, expected goals you kind of have to take with a bit of a pinch of salt. You have to kind of apply it differently depending on what kind of player you're looking at. So, but if, for example, if Firmino had like 5 expected goals in 5, then okay, yeah, he's good enough to finish a couple of those chances, surely. But it's only 2 over the past 5. You know he's not going to match his expected goals, so you know you take these stats with a pinch of salt. Anyway, he's never been a clinical striker. He's having a bad year. I don't think there's enough evidence to say he's going to turn it around, especially not enough to spend 9.5 million on him. If he can prove himself in a couple of games, fine, fair enough. But right now, when he plays Man City and Leicester after, you know, Gameweek 22, which is the Brighton game, I don't think so. I know a lot of you guys are looking desperately for a Kane replacement. I know you are. I know a lot of you guys are struggling with this. But you don't try and remember, you don't have to spend all of your Kane money on a Kane replacement. Just because a player is more expensive, that doesn't mean they're the best player to pick. You know, I look at Watkins and I expect him to get more points than Firmino. Just because Watkins is cheaper doesn't mean that Firmino it must be better because he's 3 million more expensive. In fact, look at it the other way. You can save money and get a better player. Just be careful with your strike replacements. I see people going for like Timo Werner as well, just because they feel like they have to spend the Kane money. Don't worry about it, guys. Honestly, don't worry too much about it. So, let's move on to my final avoid. And my final avoid is Robertson. Now, guys, these avoids have been quite hard to pick this game week. I choose them kind of by looking back at the list of the most transferred in players of the game week so far, and then I pick the ones that basically make me say, why in the name of Harry Kane's ankles are people transferring in this player? Now, Firmino did that for me big time. I looked at that list, saw Firmino as one of the most transferred in players, and I was like, what on earth? But other than that, no one really stands out too much. I could understand quite a lot of the most transferred in players. I understand why people would transfer them. So basically, guys, well done. The FPL community as a whole is making some smart transfer moves. But it basically means it's kind of tough to pick someone particularly interesting to avoid this game. Like, I try and pick a player that, you know, will apply to a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys will find this relevant information. And I try and keep it new players every game week and talk about new players each game week. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to throw Robertson into the mix for a second game week in a row. Sorry, guys, but he is one of the most transferred in players, particularly amongst defenders. And I don't think he should be. Last week, I said he was a sell. This time, he is an avoid. But my points are kind of exactly the same as they were, so I'll keep it fairly brief. He's too expensive. Many other players are more likely to get goal contributions than him. Last week, I kind of used the examples of Craig Dawson and Bogle, and I still think they still stand out as the more extreme examples of players that are much cheaper than Robertson with similar FPL output. So don't waste your money, is what I'm saying. Trent Alexander-Arnold is probably a slightly better option at the same price if you really are desperate to spend your money on someone, anyone. But overall, there are some really great defenders with some really great value elsewhere. So Rudiger, as I spoke about earlier, you know, you've got the Man City defenders, Diaz, Cancelo, you know, Walker and Zinchenko to a lesser extent, but you could potentially still go for them if you've got a good backup on your bench. So foul, targets, Rob Holding I've been looking at recently as well. He looks like a steal right now. A really, really good bargain. You go for Luke Shaw if you don't mind the rotation risk. Listen, I could go on forever and ever and ever about players that I prefer to Robertson. There really is so many. And the fact that there is so many players that I'd rather have in my team than Robertson kind of suggests to me that Robertson is probably an avoid in terms of FPL. Anyway, so there you go, guys. So, quick summary, there are, a few players that you probably want to knee-jerk out of your team. I get that. There's a lot of knee-jerk movements going on in the market at the moment. Just have a deep think about this before you do. Like, when we were talking about knee-jerking out Man City players, knee-jerking out Calvert-Lewin, just take a deep breath, maybe take a day, think about it, and then make your move. With the template players not doing so great, this might actually be a good time to go for some mid-price differentials. Zaha and Cavani are kind of guys I've mentioned. There are plenty others as well you can go for if you fancy a bit of a cheeky differential. And Liverpool, I think, in general, are kind of a bit of an avoid at the moment. Like, no offence, Liverpool fans. It's kind of been inconsistent. I know the game against Spurs, kind of a sign of a bit of a bounce back. But I'm still not fully convinced. Maybe that'll change, after tonight's game. Maybe that'll change after next, the midweek game against Brighton. But then after that, you've kind of got Man City, and it could very easily go backwards again because Man City are just in such good form. So, yeah, Liverpool players, because they're so expensive, maybe there's better value elsewhere, but we all have so much money to spend at the moment. Maybe we just go in on one of them anyway. Maybe go for a Salah. Who knows? But yeah, in general, not really too keen on Liverpool at the moment. So that is the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give a like before you leave. And if you're new around here, please do consider subscribing. I guess as we're now on the journey to 100,000 subscribers, which is just mad to say. Hopefully one day we'll get there, fingers crossed. It'll probably take a little while though, but we've got to start somewhere, right? We've got to start somewhere. In the description, you'll find the link to OneFootball if you want to go check that out. Obviously, my Twitter, Instagram, my mini league as well. You can join that all in the description as well, or join as a channel member if you fancy supporting the show that way. That's all good in the hood. And aside from that, guys, we're gonna see you tomorrow for a team selection video where I'm gonna be talking about my scores from Gameweek 22, Gameweek 21, sorry. An interesting game week to say the least. Looking forward to sharing my ups and downs with you. It's been a mixed one. I'm sure it's been a mixed one for you guys too as well. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. And I'll see you on the next one. See you later, mates. Bye bye.